desire to work, but there was room for Fiona. There would always be room for Fiona. The plantation was barely hanging on now, he knew. Despite the war, he had exchanged letters with his cousin Brendan, a lieutenant with the Union Army, and he knew the property wasn't doing well. Since New Orleans had fallen under Yankee control, Brendan had spent time out at the plantation, and his letters had been honest. The two men might be mortal enemies on the battlefield, but they were still cousins, which made the correspondence dangerous for them both. Brendan had written about Beast Butler, Union military commander in the parish, and how he had warned the family to avoid contact with the Union forces at all costs. And if that warning had come from a Union officer, well, Sloane didn't like to think about what that meant. Sloane hesitated for a moment, knowing he should be riding north. His reconnaissance mission had yielded a promise of heavy skirmishing if the troops were to approach too near to the heart of the parish. But he was so close to home, to Fiona. He could steal an hour, just an hour. A host of soldiers riding in would bring instant reprisal, but he could slip in alone. No, this was war, and he'd been given his orders. He kneed his horse and started south, despite the warnings in his head. Soon the long drive shaded by the oak stretched ahead of him. From this vantage point, the house was still beautiful, graceful, built in the classic style, with a hall that ran front to back to facilitate the breeze wafted up from the river, bringing the cooler air. The wraparound porches on the first and second floors were still covered in ivy, and a hint of flowers could be seen. As a child, he had helped build this house. It was home, and the mere sight of it sent a river of bittersweet nostalgia sweeping through his system. He didn't ride up the front drive. He detoured through the surrounding grove, passing fields that were overgrown and neglected. There, Sloane left Pegasus tied to a tree, then made his way to the stables, directly behind the house. Henry, their caretaker, was there, a lean man of mixed Choctaw, Haitian, and probably German blood, a free man of color, and the real boss of the place for as long as Sloane could remember. "Henry?" His voice was soft but urgent. Henry, busy repairing a saddle, looked up with a smile, his features ageless and strong. "Sloane?" Sloane slipped from behind a bale of hay. Henry dropped his leather needle and rose, and the two men embraced. But Henry withdrew quickly, his features grim. "There's a couple of soldiers up to the house," he warned Sloane quietly. "They just got here this morning." Sloane frowned. "Soldiers? Why?"
"Why?" Henry echoed bitterly. "Because they own the place now that New Orleans surrendered."
Sloane frowned, refusing to let himself think about Beast Butler's warning for the moment.
"What about everyone else? Is anyone left in there? I heard the news about Ma. Brendan wrote me last summer when she died."
Even if he'd known in time, he wouldn't have been able to attend her funeral. He had been watching the soon-to-be-dead massing at Sharpsburg.
"But what about Fiona? And Missy and George, are they still here?"
Missy and George had been with the family as long as Henry had.
"Yeah, they're all still there,"
Henry said, looking uncomfortable.
"But Miss Fiona, she told me to come out here and stay out of the way, lest she calls for me."
Sloane looked at Henry, and he knew, because he knew Fiona, why she had given the order. She was afraid it might not be the cream of the federal troops who had come to the house. She didn't know what they wanted, and she didn't want Henry getting killed if she needed to defend herself. Sloane looked off into the distance. Henry still seemed distinctly uncomfortable. What the hell was going on here?
"Henry, what is it? What the hell is it?"
he demanded.
Nothing. It's just... Well, it's been a long time since you've been home. A year almost."
Sloane stared at him.
"What does that have to do with anything?"
he demanded.
"Brandon, he ain't around right now neither. He's been away. When he's here, well, this place belongs to his kin, so the troops, they leave it alone."
"And?"
"I just said